U.S. history. All right. This announcement is something that really applies to everybody. So even though I have it labeled as opportunity for extra credit, which it is, and I'm going to explain how that'll work here in just a second, I'm going to encourage everybody to watch this brief video. Whether you have an A+ in the class or you have a low percentage E, I think everybody probably should watch this and just be aware of how this is going to run in class. Now, in previous years, I would sprinkle a lot of extra credit opportunities throughout every marking period. Just the way things are running remote and everything virtual, that's hasn't been able to implement in my class how I normally would have. But I think also more than ever, there is a need for extra credit at this time. I just looked at my grade book this past week, and there's a lot of people that, just on average, grades are lower than they normally would be. And I think that's for a whole variety of reasons. Now, I've been debating how best to go about doing extra credit. Last semester, I did following up the Cinderella Man movie, I did a bonus lecture that was like 40 minutes, and a few people, probably about 10 to 15 people, took advantage of that and did get some extra credit out of it. But also I'm aware that I kind of threw that out in the last week of the semester and everybody's scrambling around to get their grades set. And that probably wasn't the most ideal time to drop an extra credit opportunity on you. So now we're about halfway through quarter three. The progress reports are coming out this week. I'm going to do kind of a series of bonus lectures. Okay. And I think with World War II playing out and us covering that, this is an ideal time to do it because there's just a ton of interesting information that ties into World War II. This is something that really anybody can take advantage of it. And if you are, you don't have your grade where you want it to be at the very end of quarter three, and you start hitting me up and asking what you can do, I'm going to reference you back to this video, and then you can choose to take advantage of it or not, watching some of these bonus lectures. So another reason that I'm going to do it this way, where and I'll explain all the ins and outs of it in just a second. I really kind of feel like I have two groups of students right now. There are the people that are interested in history, and then there are the people that are not that interested in history. One group of students is and I'm not trying to shame you either way, because I know everybody has subjects they like, and some people are really into school and some are not so much. A lot of you just want to get through your classes. You just want to get your credit, and then you want to get back to playing Fortnite or whatever else it is you're doing with your day. I understand that. I respect it. I kind of get it. If this was freshman me and it was math class, I would feel that way because I was never passionate or super into math or that kind of stuff. But then I also have another group of students that are really into history and are liking the lectures. So the first group of students I mentioned, I've had, when I ask for constructive criticism, they often say, oh, your lectures are too long. Doing 25 or 30-minute lectures, that's too much. And I can totally relate that, if it's a subject you're not interested in and you just want to get credit, yeah, that is a long time to sit through a lecture. But the second group of students I mentioned that are really interested and want to learn about history and are pretty engaged, I've had a lot of them reach out to me and say, your lecture links are perfect. If anything, I'd like to hear more of them. And I like the details and the storytelling you do. So hopefully this will be something that kind of works out and is manageable for everybody. But World War II is a topic that there's just so much to learn about it. And we really only going through a class like this where we're spending several weeks on it, a month or a little more. We only scratch the surface and get the basic overarching details. I also, because it's an American history class, I cover the war from an American perspective. So like I said, I mention the war on the Eastern Front. I talk a little bit about Hitler. We will spend a day or two on the Holocaust, but I don't go super in depth on any of those because they really didn't affect Americans per se. Those are more world history topics. However, a lot of that is super interesting, engaging, and the more you learn about it, it'll give you a more in-depth knowledge of this time in history, and it'll help you be a more well-rounded, give you a more well-rounded historical perspective. So how the extra credit will work, I'm going to do a series of lectures over the next couple weeks, probably on through at least through the World War II unit, and we'll see how it goes. Any of the extra credit lectures, they'll be titled bonus lecture. And I'll have something in the notes saying that this is not mandatory. It's not going to be on a quiz or the exam, but it's just bonus material. Anybody can watch those. Even if you're an A plus and you don't need extra credit, you might want to tune into those because it might be some interesting stuff that you'll really like. Anything I cover in any of these lectures, it's going to be something that interests me and that I find relevant and engaging. So I'm not just going to waste anybody's time. I don't want to waste my time either doing lectures that nobody would watch. I want to do stuff that's very, very interesting, but doesn't necessarily fit into like the curriculum we're covering totally. So it is kind of bonus material. How you get the extra credit. You can tune into any or all of these, and then you have to make contact with me afterwards. You have to take the advantage or the initiative here, and you need to either send me an email or you can like schedule a phone or a Zoom call with me, but basically contact me in any way, shape, or form. And I'm going to have a two-way conversation with you. And it doesn't mean I'm not expecting like a half-hour phone call or anything like that where I'm grilling you, but you basically have to convince me that you watched the lecture. You have to bring up a couple key points. It'll be anybody that did the Cinderella Man extra credit where I did the follow-up story to Jim Braddock and some of those other boxers, pretty much the same thing. If you just mention one thing I said in the first 2 minutes of the lecture video, well, that doesn't really convince me you watched the whole thing. You need to bring up some points that are spread out through the whole lecture. And if possible, ask me a question or two. Get a little bit of a conversation going. So this can be done with an email exchange. It could be done with a phone call, really whatever is most convenient for you. But bottom line, you have to convince me that you are tuned in, you watched the lecture, you paid attention and put in a little bit of extra time. And if you do that, I don't have like this isn't going to necessarily be worth a set amount of points, like 5 points in whatever category or 10 points or something. Basically, the more you take advantage of it and the more you convince me you are tuned in and we're actually paying attention and engaged in my class, the more I'll make it worth your while. And I'll actually, I'll apply it to wherever I think it would help you best. And I'll give you whatever amount of points that I think you earned. I know that I'm a pretty generous guy and I do want to see everybody do well in my class. So I plan to, I'm throwing some of you a lifeline that are struggling in my class, and this could be your ticket to passing and getting credit. Some of you with lower grades, maybe this is your ticket to getting an A or a B. And if you're already at an A in class, well, you're the people that, maybe don't need it so much. But I will say this, you'll get on my good side, you'll earn some brownie points, and you'll impress me if you take advantage of it, especially if you already have a good grade. And I will allow you to keep that as like an ace up your sleeve. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you do some of these and you already have an A in class and there's really nowhere for me to plug in extra points for you, I'll make a note of that and you can definitely remind me of it later. And if anything ever happens where you miss an assignment or you have a low quiz score or you don't do well on the exam, you can redeem those points later. And hey, you got a little bonus points waiting, and it's kind of better safe than sorry type thing. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I'm going to start, some of these lectures will be like, I think I'm going to cover Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of Great Britain, interesting guy. I think I'm going to go more in depth on Hitler and maybe Stalin. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Holocaust and some crazy and horrific stories there. I'm also going to cover some things from out in the war in the Pacific theater. So if you do like World War II, if you're kind of interested in this anyways, I think a lot of these bonus lectures will be right up your alley. And if you're happy with your grade how it is and you just don't want to spend any more time on anything class related, well, you can just skip them and not take advantage of that opportunity. So hopefully that makes sense to you. If you have questions about any of this, how it would work out, just shoot me an email and I'll get back with you and clarify. All right. Have a great day. Have a great week. Be seeing you soon.